Hello, everyone. This is Lexi coming at you with another budget commander list. And today we're going to be looking at Mahadi Treasures. Um, I've yet to play this deck, but it does seem very interesting. So I'm hoping you enjoy this video and let's begin. So our commander is Mahadi, Emporium Master. It is a 3-mana Rakdos spell that's a 3/3 that says at the beginning of your end step, you create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. So this commander is fun because we have a ton of ways to sacrifice our creatures, draw a couple cards, and then make treasures at our end step. So by having the treasures allows us to play the cards that we want to play, and also has synergy with some other cards that we're going to mention once we get into the creature package. So for our Planeswalker, we're only running one. It is a 3-mana Planeswalker with 3 loyalty that has casualty X, and then the copy isn't legendary and has starting loyalty X. So when we play this Planeswalker, we can sacrifice another creature, and then we can make a copy of this. So we have 2 on board. So it has 2 really good loyalty abilities. The first one is a +1 that allows us to ping our opponents for 2 life unless they discard a card. And then if we control a demon or a devil, we gain 2 life. So sometimes when we copy this guy, we might -2 on one and then plus on the other to gain some life if we need it. Or we could just plus twice on each Planeswalker, and that will force our opponent to either discard a card or force them to lose 2 life. So if they don't discard any cards, each opponent will be taking 4 damage from these two Planeswalkers. So let's get into the creature package. We're running Academy Manufacture because when we do generate our treasure token, we will create a clue and a food token that we could either sacrifice the clue to draw or sacrifice the food to gain 3 life. Then we're playing Blood Artist, a 2-mana 0/1 that says whenever another creature dies, target player loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. So since we're going to be sacrificing a lot of our own stuff, we can ping an opponent that we want to with this card. And it's just a very good aristocrat card for this style of deck. Then we're playing Body Dropper. It's a 2-mana 2/2 that says whenever you sacrifice another creature, you put a 1/1 counter on this. And then for 2 mana, we can sacrifice another creature, and we can give Body Dropper Menace. Then we're playing Braids. It's a 3-mana 3/3 that says at the beginning of each end step, you may sacrifice an artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker. And if you do, each opponent may sacrifice a permanent that shares that type. But if they do not, that player will lose 2 life and we will draw a card. So sometimes we might want to sacrifice a treasure, because if they have no treasure, they can't sack anything for it. So we will gain 2 life and draw a card. Then we're playing a very good 1-drop in Disciple of the Vault, which is a 1/1 that states whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may have a target opponent lose 1 life. So if we're using our treasures to play cards, it's going to trigger the ability of Disciple of the Vault, and then we can drain an opponent for 1. Then we're playing Dockside Chef as a way to either sacrifice an artifact or a creature to draw us a card. Then we were playing Gadrak, a 3-mana 5/4 flyer that cannot attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. But at the beginning of your end step, you will create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So this works with our commander. So if we do have a creature that dies on our turn for whatever reason, it's going to trigger this ability and then trigger our commander. And most of the time we're gonna have at least 4 more artifacts. So for a 3-mana 5/4 with flying, I believe that this card is very good. Then we're playing Grim Hireling, a 4-mana 3/2 that says whenever one or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, we will make 2 treasure tokens. And then for 1 black, we could sacrifice any number of treasures. And then a target creature will get -X until the end of the turn. And we can only activate it as a sorcery. So if we want to get rid of a troublesome creature that we don't like for whatever reason, we can sacrifice a bunch of treasures that we've generated, and then give that creature -X and remove it from the battlefield. Then we're playing a 1-drop called Impulsive Pilferer. So it says when it dies, you create a treasure, and then it has Encore for 4. So we will exile this card from our graveyard, and for each opponent, we'll make a copy that attacks an opponent this turn if able, and it gains haste. And then at the beginning of the end step, we sacrifice it. So this is cool because we're going to make copies of this. They're going to attack. If they block or take the damage, it's whatever. But when this dies, it will generate three treasures if we have 3 opponents remaining. And then it will also trigger our commander. So once these creatures die, if we have 4 of them, we will then essentially make 4 treasures with our commander at our end step. Then we're playing Ingenious Artillerist, a 3-mana 3/1 that says whenever one or more artifacts enters the battlefield under our control, it deals that much damage to each opponent. So if we make 2 treasures, all our opponents will take 2, and so on and so forth. We're playing Jadar because Jadar allows us to make a decayed zombie at our end step, which fuels our commander and our ability to use cards to sacrifice it to draw more cards. Then we're playing Jury Master of the Revu, a 2-mana spell that says whenever you sacrifice a permanent, you put a 1/1 counter on it, and then when Jury dies, it deals that much damage equal to its power to any target. So as we're sacrificing creatures or using our treasures, this is going to get pumped up exponentially, and then eventually at some point we might be tempted to sacrifice it to deal a ton of damage to one of our opponents. Then we're playing Kalan. It's a 2-mana spell that when it ETBs, you create a treasure, and then whenever we use a treasure to cast a creature, that creature will enter the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it for each mana from a treasure spell to cast them. So if we cast a 3-mana spell with 3 treasures, it's going to ETB with 3 counters on it, and it's going to be a big creature for us. Then we're playing Lagomas, Hand of the Hatred. It is a 3-mana 1/3 that at the beginning of combat on our turn, we make a 2/1 red elemental with trample and haste, and then we have to sacrifice it at the beginning of the end step. So regardless if they take the damage or not, if this creature, once the token dies, it's going to trigger our commander and get us a treasure. And for whatever reason, if we do use this tap ability, it allows us to search our library for a card, put it into our hand, and shuffle. And then we can only activate this if 5 or more creatures die this turn. Then we're going to play Lobelia. It's a 3-mana spell with Flash and Menace. And it says when it enters the battlefield, we may exile target creature card from an opponent's graveyard that was put from the battlefield this turn. And then we'll create X treasure tokens, where X is the exiled card's power. Then we're going to be playing Mayhem Devil, 3 mana spell with power and toughness 3/3, and it states whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, so it's not just us, we can deal 1 damage to any target. Then we're playing Mirkwood Bats, 4 mana 2/3 flyer that whenever we create or sacrifice a token, each opponent will lose 1 life. Then we're playing Morbid Opportunist to draw cards for us. So whenever 1 or more creatures we control dies, we draw a card, and this ability only triggers once per turn. Then we're playing Nadir's Nightblade. It is a 3 mana spell that says whenever a token leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain a life. So if we are sacrificing our treasures to add mana to play cards, it will trigger this ability, and then it would also trigger our commander and generate us more treasures to use while draining your opponent. Then we're playing Pitiless Plunderer. It's a 4 mana, 1/4 that says whenever a creature we control dies, we will create a colorless treasure artifact token, which then we can sacrifice to add 1 mana to our mana pool. Then we're playing Priest of the Forgotten Gods, which is one of the best 2 mana cards for black, especially in a deck of this style, which is kind of an aristocrat style deck. So we can sacrifice 2 other creatures, and then any number of target players each loses 2 life and sacrifices a creature, and then we add double black and then draw a card. Then we are playing Professional Facebreaker. It is a 3 mana menace with 2/3 that says whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, we will create a treasure token. And then for whatever reason, if we want to sack a treasure token to exile the top card of our library, we may play that card this turn. Then we're playing Reassembling Skeleton. It's a 2 mana 1/1 that we can tap to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is a very good card for us because we can keep recurring it over and over and use it as sock fodder to draw cards or to generate treasure tokens with our commander. Then we are playing Reckless Fireweaver. It is a 2 mana 1/3 that says whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under our control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then we are playing Shambling Gas, more so because we're using this to use the search the body, which means we can create a treasure token with this when it dies. Then we're going to be playing Squee Immortal. It is a 3 mana 2/1 that we can always recur no matter what, because it says we can cast it from our graveyard or for exile. So this is good for us because since we can recur this over and over again, we can use this as sock fodder for our cards to draw us cards and generate treasures. Then we are also playing Stormclaw Rager, a 3 mana 2/2, and we can sacrifice another creature to put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card, but we can only activate it as a sorcery. Then we're playing Viscera Seer. It's a 1 mana 1/1 that we can sacrifice a creature to scry 1. So Viscera Seer is good for us because it allows us to sacrifice creatures, sacrifice token creatures, scry, trigger our commander, and so on and so forth. Then we're playing Zorn because Zorn allows us to make an additional treasure token every time we do create 1 or more treasure tokens, so we'll get 1 more out of this. And then finally, we're going to be playing Zulaport Cutthroat, a 2 mana 1/1 that says whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent will lose 1 life and we will gain 1 life. Then for sorceries, we're going to be playing Faithless Looting to draw 2, then discard 2, and then we can flash it back for 3. We're playing Lash of the Balrog, a 1 mana sorcery that we can either sacrifice a creature or pay 4 to destroy target creature. Then we play Night's Whisper to draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. Breathe the Bones to scry 2, draw 2, and then lose 2. Seize the Spoils to discard a card, draw 2, and create a treasure, and then Sign in Blood to target player, draws 2 cards, and loses 2 life. As far as instants, we're going to be playing Altar's Reap, sacrifice a creature to draw 2, Bedevil for removal, Big Score for draw and 2 treasures, Corrupted Conviction for draw power, Costly Plunder for draw, Dark Ritual to ramp us, Deadly Dispute to sack a creature, draw 2 and make a treasure, Nasty's End to sacrifice a creature, draw 2, and if it was legendary, we draw 3 instead. Plumb the Forbidden to sacrifice creatures and copy the spell, and then we will draw a card and lose 1 life for each time we have copy this. Reckoner's Bargain to sacrifice a creature or an artifact. We gain life equal to the sacrifice permanent's mana value, then we draw 2. Sheoldred's Edict, since this is going to affect everyone on the board, so we could either make each opponent sacrifice a non-token, sacrifice a creature token, or sacrifice a planeswalker. Then we're playing Terminate for removal. Destroy target creature, can be regenerated. Then we play Thrill of Possibility to discard a card to draw 2. And then Unexpected Windfall has the same ability as Big Score, except it is double red. And then Village Rites to sack a creature to draw 2. As far as artifacts, we're going to be playing Signet, Commander Sphere. We are playing Crowded Crypt because since we're going to have so many creatures dying all the time, it's going to put corpse counters on this. And then we can pay 6 to sacrifice this to create 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed for each corpse counter. So if we have 5 corpse counters on Crowded Crypt, we're going to make 5 2/2 with 2/2 zombies with Decayed. Then we're playing Dragonspark Reactor. So whenever it or another artifact enters the battlefield under our control, we put a charge counter on it. And then we can pay 4 to sacrifice this and then deal damage equal to the number of charge counter on it to target player, and that much damage up to 1 target creature. Then we're playing Oniko Anvil. It says whenever 1 or more artifacts you control leaves the battlefield during your turn, we'll create a 1/1 colorless construct artifact token. This ability only triggers once, and then we can sacrifice an artifact to deal 1 damage to each opponent, gain 1 life. Then we're playing Rakdos Signet. Excuse me. We're playing Rakdos Signet for ramp, Soul Ring for ramp, Swift Boots for protection, Talisman to make sure we can pay the mana to play our cards. And then we're going to talk about Urabrash Forge. So this card is very good for us. It works well with our commander, and in general, it's just going to be a very problematic card for our opponents to deal with unless they blow it up. So basically, at the beginning of combat on our turn, we will put an oil counter on it, and then we will create an X1 red Phyrexian Horror creature token with trample and haste, where X is the number of oil counters on this. Then we sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So if this somehow gets to 5 or 6, we'll make a 5/1 with trample, then a 6/1 with trample, and so on and so forth. It's going to be sacrificed before the end, at the beginning of the next end step, which will then trigger our commander to make treasure tokens. And then for enchantments, we're only running 2. So we're playing Agent of the Iron Throne. It is a 3-mana legendary enchantment background that says commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses a life. Then we're playing Spiteful Banditry. It can be a board wipe for us, but I think the ability that we're trying to use more here is the second ability that says whenever 1 or more creatures your opponent's control dies, you create a treasure token, and it's only triggers once per turn. And then for our land base, it's pretty simple. We're going to be playing Bojuka Bog to eat a live graveyard, Castle Lothwain to draw cards, Mines of the Moria to exile 3 cards from our graveyard to create 2 treasure tokens. We're playing a Bounce Land in Rakdos Cranarium. And then we're playing Sakusan to channel if we need to. We'll discard it, create 2/1/1 colorless tokens, and then they gain haste until the end of the turn. And then this ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. And then we have Takanuma, Abandoned Mire, which we can channel for 4 or 3, or even less, depending on how many legendary creatures we control. Then we mill 3, and then we return a creature or planeswalker from our graveyard to our hand. So that is the deck. It curves out at 2 mana, so by turn 2 we are popping off, we're doing stuff. 66% of our permanents are black and 40% are red, 11% are colorless, and then this deck will run you somewhere between 185 to 190 in cash. It might be a lot cheaper on Moto. I'm not really sure how many tickets this costs, but if you already have a ton of cards in your collection and a lot of the staples, this shouldn't be a very expensive deck for you to build. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It will be uploaded to YouTube shortly with all my social media links. If you like this style of content, please subscribe to my YouTube. It will help me out a lot. And have a good day and take care.